Joining me now on the program is the former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations and also the United States National Security Advisor from 2018 to 2019. He also served in the State Department. John Bolton, thank you so much for joining us here on the program. Ambassador, we were just listening there to Antony Blinken speak. And of course, in the last few weeks, we've also heard from Joe Biden talk about the importance of the unity that NATO has been showing, that the West has been showing. How would you assess the way in which the United States government and the West has handled this whole crisis and conflict now?
Well, I think we're suffering from a basic failure. And every day this war goes on reflects that failure. You can talk about unity of NATO all you want. That's not doing Ukraine any good. And it's not teaching Vladimir Putin or Xi Jinping, while we're on the subject, the right lesson. The objective of the policy before 10 or 11 days ago was to deter Russia from attacking Ukraine. That failed. It failed because the West wasn't credible after not doing anything serious to Russia when it invaded Georgia in 2008, not doing anything serious to Russia when it invaded Crimea the first time in 2014, and after the catastrophic U.S. and NATO withdrawal from Afghanistan last summer. So our threat wasn't credible, and it wasn't nearly strong enough. Putin's calculus was that he would simply not face debilitating sanctions, and so he went ahead. That's failure. Let's get that straight. Let's start right there. You can talk about unity all you want. That's true. We're united in failure, and as the days go on, we can welcome, we can applaud the heroism of Ukraine's forces, which have done far better than anybody expected. And we can see the failures both of Russia at the strategic level and at the operational level. But it doesn't disguise the fact that in Ukraine,
but Ambassador, what could the West have done differently? What could the United States have done differently? Because you've often spoke about the fact that President Trump, and you were his national security advisor, has spoken about wanting to exit NATO and in many ways emboldening Vladimir Putin. Just a few weeks ago, he said what Putin has done was genius.
I agree entirely with what you've just said. You may have noticed Donald Trump's not president now. What Trump did was impair the development of a sound bilateral U.S.-Ukrainian relationship. And I think it impeded our ability to provide back in those days the kinds of assistance that might have borne fruit in subsequent times. But for the past year, Donald Trump hasn't been president. So as bad as things are, let's talk about President Biden. He did not do what was necessary to deter Putin. In fact, if anything, right now, Putin is deterring the West. So if you can celebrate NATO unity, but right now, the sanctions that are being imposed on Russia will not halt this military activity. The president took American military force completely off the table in early December and didn't get anything for it. If you believe that the objective was to stop the war, we failed. It wasn't that the objective, or am I wrong?
Well, should NATO impose a no-fly zone? Because President Zelensky continues to ask for it. In fact, he said that if the West doesn't impose a no-fly zone, they will have blood on their hands, the blood of the women and children of this country.
Look, the President of the United States has flatly ruled it out. The Prime Minister of Great Britain has flatly ruled it out. The Secretary General of NATO has flatly ruled it out. What do you want me to do?
I mean, if you were National Security Advisor, would you have advised differently?
Yes, indeed. Look, you're asking me what to do now on move 25 of the chess game, when in my view, about 20 of the past 25 moves have been erroneous. It is irrelevant to create unity if the unity isn't achieving anything. And the fact that we didn't deter Putin earlier, and indeed the failures of the Russian military, I think have caused him to double down. He now has to try to show military victory. I don't think there's a negotiated way to end this. And so the real issue is that united NATO just going to sit by and watch Ukraine get ground into the dust. You know, we're supplying weapons and intelligence now. That if Putin wanted a pretext to say that NATO was committing aggression against Russia in this conflict, or that NATO was a party to the conflict, he's already got it. People are trying to feel good about this.
Well,
I wonder how long that's going to last.
Well, you've met him. I mean, just based on, the calculus and the way that he has led his foreign policy in places like Syria as well, what is the end game here, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, I know there are a lot of theories and speculation going around that Putin has a screw loose now. And I'm not a shrink. I don't do shrinky analysis. Maybe he does. I don't think so. I think he's a cold, hard, calculating man. And I think right now he's probably quite irritated at the performance of the Russian military. But I don't think that's going to make him back away. I think he's a man who understands force. We didn't deter him before the invasion. We're not deterring him now. And the leaders of the alliance have said we're not going to use force. So where does that leave us? You've got to get through. I'm not speaking to you personally, of course, but in the media generally and in elite circles in the West, we've got to get past the euphoria that seems to have engulfed us when we watch what's actually happening on the ground in Ukraine.
So should we be looking? Should we be looking to China then? Because Joseph Borrell, the EU foreign policy chief, has said that if anyone can work out and mediate a deal here, it's China.
That statement, yes, I saw that. That statement confirms what Winston Churchill once called the confirmed unteachability of mankind. Bringing China in to mediate this or to try and resolve it is like figuring out how to enhance China's power in Europe. I don't see the logic to that at all. Russian and Ukrainian foreign ministers are scheduled to meet today in Turkey. That's not a lot better, but it's certainly better than China.
Well, you've also said that had Donald Trump been re-elected in 2020, that he would potentially have pulled out of NATO. Is that how do you think then things would have panned out now? Because you're saying the unity seems to not be making any kind of difference.
I think if Trump had won, things would be worse now. I think the Russians would already have captured Kiev maybe 6 months ago.